After years of planning, the first BRT corridor in Kenya is taking shape right here on Thika Road. This week on Inside Government, we focus on BRT policy and the other lines that the government is developing and how these will impact the cost of transport in the country. And we are talking to Infrastructure Secretary and Acting Director General of NaMATA. This is Engineer Francis Gitau. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here.
Thank you very much.
This is a topic that we have handled with you in the past. Can you first of all give us an overview of what we are witnessing here along Thika Road?
O'Brien, what you're saying is the retrofitting of public transport infrastructure that includes facilities like stations. Somewhere in the stadium there, we are also having something like a bus depot and a bus operating center. So what we are basically doing is that now we are preparing to demarcate the inner lane of either side of the highway to only run buses. And like where you have come from, I can see you have come down from the station. You'll find in front of the stations, we have done a concrete slab where the buses will be docking, because the kind of buses that will be running on this service will be 1.5 times the kind of design load usually done for the roads, for the normal roads. So we'll be having like 10 of these kind of stations in every location where we've been having pedestrian overpasses, and they're being retrofitted now to include access ramps into the station.
If I can take you back to the year 2018, there were some drawings that were done on this highway, and the next thing people were expecting were buses. Unfortunately, this never happened. How different is that project from this one?
This project is basically the same. Initially, the target for buses was to bring some kind of public transportation awareness that high capacity meant efficiency. It also meant, better economy, and the buses are still going to come open. What we are doing is now we are creating the infrastructure upon which they will run. Even manufacturing a bus, the lead time is in excess of 9 months. So even if we start talking buses now, if we were to start now, we could be expecting 12 months from today. But we are fortunate we started talking then, because we have made a lot of progress and we hope to see them here soon.
Why did you decide to start this project on Thika Road, bearing in mind that Nairobi is surrounded by various critical arteries like Waiyaki Way, Mombasa Road, and Gong Road? Why specifically did you choose Thika Road?
I think basically the configuration of the cross-section of Thika Road provides opportunity to actually be able to develop a quick win solution and walk the talk. If we were to go to Mombasa Road before this Thika Road, you'll find it does not have adequate public transport, pedestrian and non-motorized traffic infrastructure. So Thika Road was like the ready product, and the retrofitting is cost-friendly and it will be cost-effective, and the kind of conflicts and along the highway were much fewer. And looking at our design framework, which adopts a median operation for efficiency, Thika Road was the road of choice. However, every other corridor is being developed. Mombasa Road, there is the effort to bring a BRT corridor in the same construction cycle with the expressway. Something is happening on Outer Ring Road, and of course, we are doing the design review for Line 3, which is Dadora through Racecourse Road, Haile Selassie to Kenyatta National Hospital 2. So there is something happening on each one of these corridors. I think Thika Road happens just to be the lucky suitor, the lucky one now.
And so who is expected to use this project once it is completed? I mean, we are used to a situation whereby the most preferred mode of transport in this country, of course, are matatus and buses. Are they also going to use this system, or this system is reserved for who?
In fact, this piece of real estate belongs to the public transport operators who we are having today. We've been talking to them for the last 3 years. The only thing is that we are just going to transform public transport into a reliable service, into a service that has a service standard. The people who will run this operation are our current operators. They may get in joint venture with other people who have done it before, but the kind of work streams we've been working on with them for the last 3 years is to prepare them to actually run this service. We have great men in the public transport services today. We also have good professionals with capacity building and the shifting in terms of the mindset, in terms of the investment planning. I know, and we have discussed with them, they are very ready and they have partnered with government so that it is not about them against us. In fact, Kimani, I expect you to run and use this service also as a user.
Now it's almost 3 years since this project was launched. Construction has been going on. When do you expect to open this project for public use?
Actually, I think it is just over a year. Of course, the preparation has taken longer because we were doing the studies in 2019. We believe this infrastructure, if it gets very late, will be through by June. But during this period of time, we will be working on the procurement of the buses we want to see run on this service. So could we say mid next year, we should see some service already running on this particular corridor.
So when you're talking about June, you're talking about June 2022?
June 2022, because we wanted to have buses arrive in sometime in February. They may be delayed because the procurement processes take time. There has been also a lot of challenge with COVID, meaning some of the expert input we've been using for modeling and simulation of this particular operation have not been available on time, but we are still working with them, even online, using online platforms. Those kind of delays sometimes take a toll on the decision-making process. But even a timeline of June would be very wonderful for this kind of a transformation.
And when you look at the work that it needs to be done, from calling for expression of interest, to manage this facility and to operate it, to opening of bids, giving it a number of months,
Yes.
to ensure there are no litigations. Are you convinced that within the timeline that you are talking about, we can have this facility up and running for public use?
Let me say we have to obey the law. If the law dictates we take that time, our target is 212 days. We've started the journey. So we have reviewed the preliminary information manual. We have actually reviewed the request for qualification. Our timeline is 212 days. We want to crash that time because we have a period of about 55 days for negotiations that we can crash to 30. So we will work within the law. But on the worst side, the process you have described now, from RFQ to signing contract, is about 212 days. But that sounds like how many months? It's about 7 months. So then issues of now meeting that particular employer requirement for the suppliers may start with a quick delivery schedule of 3 months for the first stock, but later maturing to the capacity we want to see on this corridor, which is about a maximum of 200 buses, but initially starting with about 60. That will be comfortable service to start learning the pilot.
When you look at BRT, it is becoming a preferred mode of transport, not only here in Africa, but around the world. And we have model cases from South Africa to Egypt to our neighbors here in Dar es Salaam. Which model are we planning to fly with?
I think ours is what we call an integrated mass rapid transport system, because we want to see the bus rapid transport system in sync with the commuter rail service, and again in sync with pedestrian walkways and cyclepaths. So NaMATA is actually trying to deliver an integrated system, meaning we have shared facilities, transport facilities will be shared, corridors will be having synergy so that we don't over-design public transport facilities when we already have idle capital in the commuter rail track investment. And that has been unlocked. You remember our president launched these multiple units. The unlocking has started in the commuter rail service. Ours is also to optimize it around it, integrate facilities and services, and run as one mass rapid transit system in the metropolitan area.
I mean, definitely, when you're coming up with this kind of a project, I mean, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes planning that takes place. Maybe you can take a few minutes to explain to us, where have we come up to where we are now?
Like for this particular corridor, we started in 2019 with collection of data. There was old data on issues related to the demand streams from the different counties, Kiambu, Murang'a, Machakos, on all the corridors coming into the city. In fact, the priority corridor was Mombasa Road. This was number 2. And when we started collecting data for ridership, there were many surveys undertaken for boarding and alighting, and frequency, occupancy, and transfer surveys. These are traffic surveys that later were able to help us through modeling, ME models, to develop a service plan. You can't design a BRT facility without a service plan. You start with data analysis, then you have a service plan. It is what you design around. And then you will find that even when we start, we may not be servicing the demand we have projected, but the station design and configuration is suitable for scalability, meaning the stations could still be enlarged and could accommodate much more people. But we started with data, created a service plan, created the current design we have, and now we started implementing the project on a scope that is actually on a platform of design and build. So in this project, we have design capacity and we have contracting capacity. It's been a journey, Kimani, and it will continue to be a journey because transport is a never-moving target because of new residential areas, new land use transformation, access, and all these things to other areas. So this is a journey of implementing a program that can span many decades for it to give the service.
And if the planning of this project dates back to 2019, and you plan to open this project hopefully by the year 2022, so you're talking about almost 4 or 5 years. How do you ensure that the data that you collected in 2019 is up to date for 2022?
In fact, Kimani, you're speaking like a transportation engineer, and I appreciate it. Engineers and economists have many models for forecasting data. And data can be forecasted on any parameters, either economic or social or other scientific methodologies. However, it is possible to calibrate data. It's possible to actually take sectional data or do even a random control test to be able to calibrate data from old data. We not normally always depend on current data. There are many forecasting projections, either on a linear scale or an economic factor, and as long as we remain scientific, we have nothing to worry about.
According to the transport data that you collected along this route, you're planning to have how many buses?
If you look at the peak passenger per hour per direction volumes that were calculated by the service plan, we were talking about a passenger load in everyday demand on this corridor, peak hour of that 6,000 people. Suppose you have a bus that is carrying 100 people. Those are 360 buses on the peak hour. But now we must be optimized in terms of the kind of modal shift we want to see. So we are saying we will see between 15 and 20%. So 15 and 20%, it means we are initially designing and ready to operate for a demand of 4,200 to 4,500 passengers. That's around 60 to 100 buses. This is the initial launching phase 1 design. But over time, with the proper modal shift from cars to public transport, it is going to grow, and we have a forecast on that.
And when you add those number of buses on Thika Road, which has always suffered from serious gridlocks. So how are you going to ensure that they do not add to the existing problem of traffic jam?
Traffic jams are not a problem in the urban areas. Even if you go to America or Russia or Britain, there are traffic jams. We are not going to wish our traffic jam away. We are going to design for it. And some of the best designs we are doing now are those we call junction upgrading, like the overpasses we are doing. You can now imagine we are having the expressway, junction efficiency. You will discover a corridor like this is like a pipeline. Water flows on a pipeline. The gridlock comes from entry ramps and exit ramps. So we are just going to make sure that the signalization system of this bus corridor ensures there is optimal flow. And that may be by giving the bus priority signal and traffic management systems. This is what brings efficiency. And if you look at the sector now, they're actually developing the Intelligent Transport System Master Plan. And we already have a package of implementing ITS in a short while under the Outer Ring Road corridor. So having traffic management centers, having properly trained people, better drivers, and also having behavior change, you will find some of these behavior related, others are infrastructure related. It will be a journey to work on traffic management and also getting people to obey traffic signals and rules. And efficiency will come from quite many sectors. Sure.
When you look at this corridor, for example, this is line 2
Yes.
or Simba, the number of people who live in Thika
Yes.
is completely different from the number of people who enter CBD.
Oh, yes.
So how are you going to plan to ensure that everybody is taken care of?
That service plan we are talking about is a map of the consumption of trips within this corridor. It means we have mapped origin and destinations. We actually know there are people who have a destination in Westlands. We know there are people who go beyond the city, and we know we have the people who are actually destined for the CBD. That will be solved through route allocation. So for now, we'll be having 2 routes. We'll be having the Kasarani to Kenyatta National Hospital. I'll be having the Roiro to CBD. Those are the fast routes. But as the system matures, we will create like express services to destination-rich areas from origins that actually originate these trips. So the story of infrastructure is the story of trip consumption. And that is the story you're talking about. Where you come from and where you're going and how many we have. So,
And when you look at the project that you're implementing here, the whole point is, number one, to ease transport from point A to point B, and number two, to bring down the cost of transport in this country. How are you going to ensure that this is achieved?
One of the parameters that determine this kind of a service is a transport service quality standard. And that quality standard is modeled on many criteria. We have over 300 criteria, some of them being reliability, others being comfort, others being safety, security, affordability. All those criteria will be negotiated. And upon this service quality index, we shall build in capacity for attraction into this particular service. And having high capacity buses, it means the operational cost will even be less. And having rapid mobility, it means the service can actually deliver efficiently the trips of many people. And therefore, this will be building into the public transport system very high efficiency. And that will have a big impact, not only in terms of financial internal rate of return, but economic internal return. The economic and the GDP talking about the gross domestic product of the metropolitan area, this project will support growth of this metropolis.
When you look at the distance from CBD to Roiro or Roiro to CBD, you're talking about 18 kilometers. And during peak hours, a matatu will charge you 100 bob, which translates to about 9 bob, 9.5 shillings, per kilometer. Using the BRT, how much would you expect to pay?
Now you're talking about fare policy, and fare policy is a complex issue that requires public consultation. For me, a BRT service like this can be between even 40 shillings to 150, depends on maybe a distance-based fare system. It can be zonal-based. So the fare policy, we are working on that. But one thing I also want to move away from is comparing this service with matatus, because the matatu people are the same people who are willing now to transform, to learn this service into the CBD with an efficient service. So it is a transformation of the public transportation services. And we want it to be homegrown, using and also working with the current public transport operators, and the efficiency and the affordability and the reliability will be major, value propositions.
So you're saying, the public transport operators, are also likely to be managers of this project.
When you say manager, you have allocated already a portfolio. What we would want to see is that they are structured into the operation, because it's complex. From running the depots, from monitoring buses, scheduling services, demand alignment with supply. So they should be part of the consortium that becomes the outfit, that becomes finally the operator of this service. And wherever they fit in terms of their skill mix, I think they will be happy to be part of that particular outfit, which can be a consortium of several various streams through expertise, experience, and capacity. So the kind of consortium we want to see is it will still include the capacity we have in Kenya, and that is in the public transport operators that we have in this country now.
And you are saying this project starts from Roiro,
Yes.
and all the way to Kenyatta National Hospital, with various stopovers.
Yes.
Help us understand, once I board a BRT bus to Kenyatta National Hospital, how is that journey expected to look like?
If you look at the configuration of the former pedestrian overpasses, you will see, for example, when you come from Roiro, the first one you'll get will be all the way to Gitau, to where we have the military barracks there. So we would wish to the Kahawa barracks. So you will have a stop there, and then on the bus we have about 10 of these stations. Then you'll be coming to Gitau, then Kasarani, then we're calling it Mwiki Kasarani. And then we'll be coming to Roysambu, yes. Then we will be having the other one at KSMS, Safari Park, then Gara. So this bus will stop on each one of these 10 station locations. And they are all modular, they have the same facilities. So on each of these 10 stations, the bus will stop if it is not full capacity. Suppose this bus have full capacity at Roysambu, it will follow the bus ahead of it. And therefore it will not need to stop on any of these stations, because we only have one lane. So it will have to circulate, and the buses that will stop on the headway we have designed of 3 minutes will be the ones that are not to capacity. So it will be like one snake going around the service. But once it's full to capacity, it will not have to stop. And just imagine, Kimani, if the bus ahead is full of capacity, the next bus to be full capacity will be the next one behind it. Usually so, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we will have the flow that is well managed through an operational plan And we'll be having a bus management center that will actually control the speeds, the boarding, the lighting, the circulation. Those buses will be centrally managed. They will just not be moving without control.
Behind us, this is what you are constructing, the depot, the bus depot that is just next to the Kasarani Stadium.
Yes.
Which other facility of this kind do you plan to construct around CBD or Kenyatta National Hospital?
On CBD, we'll have stations.
Stations,
So we'll
just
have
like the one we are on top.
it will be different because the ones in the CBD may have a different configuration because they are not based on an overpass, and they may be using the normal at-grade crossing for the pedestrians. So they may be at grade on the ground. However, in Roiro and Kenyatta National Hospital, we expect to have 2 other depots.
Have they started construction?
Not as yet. I think once we move from this main trunk corridor, we'll be going to Kenyatta National Hospital. We are also ready to start at the stations at the Nairobi Commuter Rail Station. So this that is the railway commuter rail station. There we'll be having a transfer station. So these stations are part of the scope that is remaining on this project, which is about 45% complete.
Before we conclude this interview, after you are through with Thika Road, it is operational. Of course, it is going to be a benchmark of how you're also going to construct other projects of this kind in the future. Where do you move to next?
I think every corridor is moving because like now corridor 3 is actually we are integrating the design of the Dadora Kenyatta National Hospital corridor with this with the construction scope of this project. The other moving line is also Mombasa Road because now we have already received a draft feasibility study for the concept. So again, we'll be going to detailed design. But the most important thing is that all these corridors will be integrated and there can be interoperability, that we can operate with the same rolling stock, which are buses, on these 3 corridors based on an optimized business plan that can maximize on the value of this investment. So integrated, interoperability, shared facilities, common standard, and optimization. These are the issues that we want to ensure happen, and that's why we are in NaMATA.
Very well.
Yes.
Any other comments?
I think just thank you, Kimani, because from the time we started these interviews on mass rapid transit, you have always supported the fact that this is a project that is for the people. All those billions invested in roads were previously used by the motorized traffic, which is about only 13%. 87% of our people who do not have individual cars, this is their value. And once unlocked for them, it will transform the quality of life in the metropolitan area. And we also in NaMATA, even as we start, we know this is a project that must receive support from the people and from everybody so that it becomes an equalizer and an equity project for the people of Kenya.
Asante sana. Of course, I will keep on talking to you and the ministry and, of course, government officials to ensure this kind of projects, are implemented elsewhere.
All the time, welcome. Thank you, Kimani.
Well, we have been talking to Infrastructure Secretary and NaMATA Acting Director General, Engineer Francis Gitau, giving us an update of the construction of Thika Road BRT. You have heard it from him. My name is O'Brien Kimani. This has been Inside Government. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again next week. Asante.